All right, family. We live again with the general. You already know what time it is. We got nothing but five for you over here today. We're gonna be talking about Donald Trump is in China, the long awaited summit between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump, especially with a lot of turmoil going on, discrepancies all over the planet. And so we most definitely want to see what's going to come up out of this. We most definitely want to see what's going to come up out of this. Cuz knowing Donald Trump, because he has the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, with the ship sitting out there in the Persian Gulf, that he might have just held, he might just hold the blockade on the strength of, as a bargaining tool for, when he go to China, because China got some cards to play too. United States most definitely is in need them rare earth minerals. And China tried to put a lockdown on some of them rare earth minerals. And yeah, so United States and shit is had to play a couple cards to get China and that just show you when your enemy got that much control over you, where you got to get certain elements from your damn enemy. And how you gonna take, and you got to get the very elements to attack the man. You got to get him from it, and it's vice versa. It's vice versa, and this is a crazy ass world that we live in. But most people want to know if China is a lot of people was wondering whether China is going to pressure Iran to deliver on the nuclear material, the uranium. And so I mean, what, and China got something at stake because they fucking oil, is in disruption. And so, having a card to play like that, for Donald Trump, that very well may be why he did it. It ain't, and you got to look at it. Blockading Iran. You're not just fighting Iran. You fighting the other allies behind Iran, the puppet masters, China and Russia, the true puppet masters, even behind North Korea. So they trying to make a move in the world. Russia is dusty. They dusty. I think looking at Vladimir Putin, Vladimir looked like he in his last days. Yeah, he, when them Neanderthals get to getting close to that casket, they already pale, but that motherfucker just, he's dimming more and more every day. He's dimming it more and more every day. Xi Jinping, he's having some turmoil in his administration because Xi Jinping want to be emperor. So people talk shit, about all of them want to be emperors, and people talk about, they talk about one imperialist. All of them, they trying to do away with Xi Jinping over there, because they saying he want all power. He want to, he literally want to be emperor. And so yeah, he had to get rid of his fucking head of his military. He supposed to been his man's. Had to get rid of him. That was very embarrassing. That's like getting, not, it's one thing if you're incompetent, but shit, they saying the man was trying to undermine him, was in there doing all, robbing the motherfucking the military and everything. So he in there running his own operation. But they were saying that it's a lot of military, a lot of elites in the military was, trying to slick talk, Xi Jinping, they ain't so much for because he's assuming and probably getting into their pockets, They used them communists, they used to being able to, to get in, and run shit from behind the scenes that nobody can't see and maybe Xi Jinping want to shake some pockets, and they ain't feeling that. They like, man, going, but Xi Jinping is a little more powerful than previous, premiers of China. I don't know if he's a president. Maybe he's a president. I think it's a Democratic, so I think he is the president. But so again, people see Xi Jinping as an imperialist. They see him as an imperialist. He put the boot down on everybody and shit in the region. So, and but the United States is most definitely over there, and they over there strong. They over there strong, and and that guy, you got to take notice. That's not something you could just sweep under the rug. They got enough shit over there to cause a lot of fucking destruction. They got enough shit over there to make a motherfucker think 2-3 times before they make a move. And so, hopefully, because it is, the world is looking real. It's like dry grass out here, and that at any time something can pop off very traumatic, that could cause great destruction on the planet. Now they talking about even going into Cuba. They even talking about going into Cuba, running up in Cuba real soon. And they ain't gonna get no fight. They ain't gonna get no fight. Cuba ain't ready for that. You know what I'm saying? They ain't ready. I wouldn't even do, you know what I'm saying? Because people say, but Cuba over there, man, they didn't stranglehold Cuba. People, they tell you, well, motherfucker, why don't you go live like that? I understand people say, yeah, but you got to evolve. You can't die on the vine. You know what I'm saying? You got to pick the grapes and shit. And, and the people know how to, evolve and lead the country in a right direction without necessarily just, dying in an archaic fashion. And that's what these niggas want people to do today. They want motherfuckers, they want the people to suffer, and Cuba's been suffering for a long fucking time. They've been suffering for a long time over there, being under the oppressive United States. And I just think, because communism ain't done shit for the world. Communism ain't done shit for the world. I think that, it's probably a lot of gifted, family in Cuba that that could, pop something off if the country could open up. You know what I'm saying? If the country could open up and get some money flowing through there, and then people could have some freedoms, to at least because you can see people going all over the world today. They on the internet, they content creators and all of that, and so today with all of these available and being able to go around the world and share your message and being able to pop some businesses off in Cuba. I ain't with the imperialism aspect, but I think both ends of the spectrum, the communism, which came from fucking Russia, y'all then took some European ideology. Both of them is European. Just like Dr. John Henry Clark said, communism, capitalism, Europeanism. That's all it is. If you got it from a European, it do the same thing. They just do it a different way. One motherfucker come through the front door, another motherfucker come through the back door. But it's the same thing. It's the same goddamn thing. That's why I don't deal with no Marxism. I deal with Africanism. We are the founders of government and science and civilization. We have been successful without capitalism. We have been successful without communism. We have been successful without all these so-called isms that you see today. So why do we have to one or the other? They need to discard the communism, and if they're going to engage in capitalism, then it should benefit them. It should be the resources of Cuba should benefit the people, and that it should open up and let the people, start to breathe and join the global community and make some money. Ain't nothing fucking wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? Instead of over there living in buildings that was built in the 1800s, early 1900s, motherfuckers still riding around in cars that was built in the fucking 20s and 30s. This shit is absurd. I understand when you got some classic shit and you didn't, put your paint. This shit is from the 1920s and 30s because they ain't been able to get no new shit over there, man. So motherfucker working on the engine and you got to be a bad motherfucker to keep a goddamn car from the 1920s and the 30s still running. And it's motherfucker, it's almost 3,000. The motherfuckers in spaceships and these motherfuckers in Model T Fords and shit, Model T's and shit. And I said, it ain't funny, but I'm like, man, what the fuck, man? You know what I'm saying? We got to, open Cuba up. Yeah. Yeah. We understand what they did. That ain't no day. We understand all that, but there's no reason for motherfuckers to suggest that they can't evolve into the modern world and expand, but expand as far as in commerce and artistry and shit. CIA, I tap in. I could tap into some shit. You know what I'm saying? We could tap in. We know what it is. I mean, shit. They was working on us before they was working on anybody. Shit. You see? Yeah, they was working on us before they was working. But in the end, because some of our people so motherfucking black, they so black that they can't motherfucking evolve into no modern advancement in getting paper and breathing and breathing in a sense where you can get out in the world and hook up. That's what the Pan-Africanism is about. So you can get out in the world, motherfucking hook up with people and make shit pop. You know, Too many of y'all motherfuckers, so y'all so stuck in these ideologies, y'all can't do that. Y'all can't do that. And I believe it's time, I do believe I do hope that they do not invade Cuba. That's what I could say that. I do not. I hope they do not invade Cuba, but I do believe it is time to overthrow the system there. I do. I think it's time for a new system that can really help the people, man, evolve into the modern world. You know what I'm saying? And on their own terms. Still control your land, still control your resources, but Cuba is known for a lot of magnificent thing, doctors and shit and all of that. We talking about our people. I'm talking about black people. I'm not talking about nobody else but that. And so, our people in Cuba have been under siege more so than any other fucking nation in this outside of Haiti. Cuba and Haiti been the two most damn, oppressed nations in the Western Hemisphere. And a lot of that shit, as far as Cuba, has been brought on Cuba by affiliating with Russia. And all of that Marxist Lenin shit and all that Karl Marx garbage and Mayo Satan, you could throw that shit in the garbage, nigga. What the fuck? We ain't cutting and pasting no revolution from no damn Chinese and no damn Russian. We African people. Well, they gonna invade it because number one, America is about to go to war, and they not gonna let Cuba, the crazy ass people that's in power, use Cuba as a base, or allow China or Russia to use Cuba as a base, and that's just what it is. When they brought that damn, when they let the Russians pull them nuclear ships over there to Havana, they fucked up. And they did. They did. You see what I'm saying? Stay and mind your motherfucking business. That's what's wrong with motherfuckers. They did not mind their business. See, and not in the sense because once you link up with that beast, the Russians is know they gonna pull your coat string. I need to come over there. I need to come over there. And they understand the ramifications of letting Russia pull a goddamn nuclear. Yeah. Russia always gonna be something to worry about. Russia always gonna be something to worry about. You see what I'm saying? They might not have a conventional army, but they got something that never take your eye off Russia. That's not you know what I'm saying? You cannot take your eye off of Russia. You can't. China too. They both together. But anyway, we appreciate y'all family for being here today. Make sure you get on over there to Patreon, man. We got the file over there. I want y'all to get over there, check out African avatars, Jedi Knights, and Dragon Warriors. We're gonna break down the Kemetic science, the African chakra system to your family, Black divinity, the apparatus of Black divinity. Also, we have Hanuman, evidence of human monkey hybrids in prehistorical India. They might be there right now, family. I'm trying to tell you, if you're ready for some high powered information, buckle your ass in and click that link at the top of the chat. I believe the African avatars link directly to that lecture is in I believe it's in the chat. I believe it is. But if not, just click the top link at the top, family. All right, Black Power.